Hello, I'm Roger Baker, Executive Director of the Stratfor Center for Applied Geopolitics at RANE. This podcast is brought to you by RANE Worldview, the premier digital publication for objective geopolitical intelligence and analysis. Find out how RANE can help you stay ahead of global events at ranenetwork.com.
This is RANE's Essential Geopolitics podcast with critical insights you need to know. I'm Emily Donahue and I welcome you. When Israel and Lebanon signed a U.S.-mediated maritime deal, after last-minute negotiations no less, it opened, if not a door, maybe a window that long had been closed. Or did it? Emily Hawthorne has the down low. She's RANE's Senior Middle East and North Africa Analyst. Welcome back to the show, Emily.
Thank you.
So, as we all know, the devil is in the details. What exactly did Lebanon and Israel just agree to?
So Lebanon and Israel just agreed to demarcate their disputed maritime border, but that's really just about it. There are other aspects to the agreement that allow both countries to get royalties from the exploration of a gas field that straddles the boundary that they've agreed to. But that's really pretty much it, is the official demarcation of a maritime boundary, which really is the only officially recognized boundary between these two countries. And then also this agreement that both countries can get royalties from the exploration of offshore gas for any field that straddles that agreed to boundary. There's a lot of other issues between these two countries, and this agreement does not really touch on those issues, including demarcating a land boundary, but and also not ending the state of war that is still technically ongoing between these two countries. But it is really notable in so much as we have, even without final approval, which still has to come from both governments, we have for the first time in many, many years, some agreement around where one country's territory ends and where one begins. And that's going to allow both countries to really focus more on offshore oil and gas exploration. And that's really one of the big motivators to this agreement.
Emily, you mentioned motivators, but when it comes to benefits, who might benefit the most from this? And maybe you could tell us how as well.
So because this is pretty much just a maritime border demarcation, and because the primary motivator was economic for both of these governments, the Israeli and the Lebanese governments, it's very much first and foremost about gas. And Israel is the party that is going to most immediately benefit. And that's because Israel can immediately start extracting gas. And it has been planning to start extracting gas from one of the sort of gas plays that's in this area, the Karish field. They've been really putting in place a lot of the infrastructure to do that, working with international firms, putting in line investment, etc. Lebanon really doesn't have anything established in terms of oil and gas exploration. They're very, very eager to start doing oil and gas exploration. And that's, again, one of the big motivators to this agreement even being struck, is this need that Lebanon feels right now, 3 years into a very severe financial crisis, this need that they feel to develop any resources that they can get their hands on. But for Lebanon, it's not going to be an immediate benefit. It's going to take time for them to line up international companies and investment and really even see what is possible. The gas play that falls very sort of firmly within the Lebanese territory is the Kana gas play, and it's not really clear because it hasn't been explored. It's not really clear how much gas is there. So while the sort of Israeli side of the boundary has more sort of known reserves and Israel can start working on them immediately, it's not immediately clear that the Lebanese side can do that. That said, it is a benefit to both of them, and the Lebanese government wouldn't have agreed to this if they didn't think that there was going to be some economic benefit for them from those gas reserves, hopeful gas reserves in the future. But Also, Lebanon does have another factor that is going to make it harder for Lebanon to benefit immediately, and that's the fact that the Lebanese government is, at this moment, much more dysfunctional than the Israeli government in terms of being able to implement policy. And in order for any future gas extraction from this sort of untested play to turn into government funds that can then turn into something that would benefit the population, it's going to require a lot of steps, and it's going to require really some economic reforms that Lebanon has not really proven capable of conducting or implementing in recent years. So I say all that to point to the reality that Israel economically is going to benefit more immediately than Lebanon, but both countries are going to benefit economically in the long term if they can maintain this boundary, and if there is gas to be had on both sides of the boundary, and if they can sort of abide by this agreement to share some of the royalties from any gas play that straddles the boundary. But I do think that we could also spend some time thinking about the political benefits and the security benefits from this, which the political benefits are complicated because there are detractors of this agreement on the Israeli side and on the Lebanese side. There are those within Lebanon that think too many concessions were given to the Israeli side, and there are the same sort of voices in Israel, although I think less than on the Lebanese side. So politically, the impact is mixed, but I think in terms of bilateral relations between the two countries, certainly there's a benefit in terms of establishing a modicum of stability between these two countries, which have been at war technically for many, many years. So there's that as well, that sort of political impact.
So let's talk a little bit about the window opening. Could this deal possibly lead to more cooperation between the two countries?
I think that it could lead to more cooperation between the two countries. And I think that that's one reason why a lot of Lebanon and Israel watchers are really very, very focused on this issue right now and are curious what this could portend for their future, because even though it's highly unlikely that Lebanon and Israel normalize their ties in the near future, the fact that they are negotiating with each other, acknowledging each other, and the fact that this basically, this agreement means that Lebanon and Hezbollah within Lebanon has recognized Israel, has actually recognized Israel as an entity that can be negotiated with. And that in some ways goes against what the sort of very purpose of Hezbollah being this militant and political body that exists to try and destroy Israel. It almost feels anathema to their entire ideology. But there's a degree of pragmatic realism on Hezbollah's part that in order for Hezbollah to ever benefit economically, or for Lebanon to ever have a chance of benefiting economically from any of the offshore oil and gas deposits, that there has to be something of this tacit recognition of Israel. But this is really, really notable. And that's the component of it that opens this question of whether there is the possibility for more cooperation between the two countries. Because in essence, we've sort of crossed something of a Rubicon in terms of Hezbollah's willingness to recognize Israel. And I don't mean to say that Hezbollah and the Lebanese government are one and the same, because they're not. And anybody that follows Lebanon knows that. But anybody who follows Lebanon knows that Hezbollah is a component of the Lebanese government and is also a very, very powerful non-state actor that holds arms in Lebanon and operates on its own interests, and that the sort of key primary goal that it has is sort of protecting against Israel, and also ultimately, as they say in their own charter, attacking Israel and working to make sure that Israel doesn't exist. And so I think the fact that that we have this agreement that we know Hezbollah has signed off on is this really notable step. I think the next question is, could they negotiate a land border? There are some really prominent land disputes between Lebanon and Israel. The land border essentially follows along a UN protected and mediated line, but it's not technically the recognized land border in terms of being recognized by both countries. There's also little pockets of territory, perhaps most notably the Sheba farms, that there are those in Beirut that say the area is, Lebanese territory and Israel's occupying it. And Hezbollah even uses that area as sort of a justification for carrying arms against Israel. So there's still a lot of land territory disputes that need to be ironed out in order for there to be more stability within this part of the region. But this maritime border demarcation opens up the possibility of that. And I think that that's really notable. And I think it's fair to say that both countries another way that they benefit is this slightly decreased likelihood of outright conflict between them. Hezbollah and Israel have clashed numerous times. The most famous is the sort of month-long war in 2006, but there have been other really serious incidents, cross-border incidents between Hezbollah and Israel in more recent years. And it's possible that if we're in a place where Hezbollah is willing to even acknowledge Israel tacitly, that we could be looking at more de-escalation between these two countries. And that would benefit certainly the people that live in Lebanon and Israel, but it would ultimately benefit, anybody who is visiting this region. This is known as one of the sort of tense borders in the region, and this possibility of slightly less tension portends just a little bit of more peace in the Middle East. But we'll have to see, because we don't exactly know what's going to happen. And as we said in the beginning, this is primarily very much a maritime border demarcation focused on both countries' ability to develop offshore gas reserves. But it's impossible not to dream of what might be possible because of it.
Well, thank you for that analysis, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily Hawthorne is RANE's Senior Middle East and North Africa Analyst. You can read her work in RANE Worldview, which is RANE's geopolitical intelligence solution for security professionals. Learn more about RANE Worldview at ranenetwork.com. That's RANE network.com. I'm Emily Donahue. Thank you for listening.